event. And just to let you know, we are recording the event. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to this CSW 68 virtual parallel event. This event has been organized by the Gender Mainstreaming Directorate at Makerere University, Uganda, and the 4W Women and Wellbeing Initiative at the School of Human Ecology, University of Wisconsin-Madison, USA, in partnership with our civil society collaborating organizations, the Higher Education Resource Services East Africa, and the United Nations Association USA Dane County chapter here in Madison, Wisconsin. We're also happy to have the Centenary Bank in Uganda and Live Beneath Your Means as co-conveners of this event. I am Deborah Kaddu-Serada, Debbie for short, the moderator of this event, and I'm the lead liaison for this partnership on behalf of the 4W Women and Wellbeing Initiative at the School of Human Ecology, University of Wisconsin-Madison. As you're aware, the title of this CSW 68 parallel event is the role of higher education, private sector, and civil society collaboration for the economic security of girls and women. As you are aware, the CSW is instrumental in promoting women's rights, documenting the reality of women's lives throughout the world, and shaping global standards on gender, equality, and the empowerment of women. The goal of this event is to showcase how collaborations between higher education, the private sector, and civil society are contributing to gender equity and the economic security of girls and women. To achieve this goal, we have an exciting lineup of speakers who will provide us with a preamble to a deeper conversation in which you will all be invited to participate. The first part of this event is a plenary session where we shall hear from our keynote speaker and panelists who are representing our host institutions. This session will be followed by a plenary discussion where all of you will have a chance to engage with the panelists, share your experiences, and generate recommendations for a call to action. A moderated plenary feedback session will establish our collective recommendations for a call to action. Please make use of the Q&A facility to communicate your observations, responses, contributions, and questions. We shall be monitoring the Q&A facility. To set us off, it is now my distinct pleasure to invite Mai Fisher, the Director, External Relations, International Division of the University of Wisconsin-Madison, USA, to welcome you to this important session. Mai Fisher is responsible for managing international engagement for the Office of the Vice Provost and Dean of the International Division. This includes coordinating agreements with foreign institutions, international visitors and delegations, alumni relations, and the development team. She is also responsible for managing the #1 ranked Peace Corps Campus Recruiting Office and directing the Scan Design Foundation Fellowship Program to expand US-Danish ties at UW-Madison. Mai has served in several other positions in the International Division since 1996, and she's the founding director of the International Internship Program here at UW. Mai is an awesome woman leader who's passionate about building women's leadership in higher education. Welcome, Mai.
Thank you so much. What an introduction. And greetings from Madison, Wisconsin. You've already heard about my name and title. Again, Mai Fisher, Director of External Relations, and thank you so much to Debbie. On behalf of Vice Provost and Dean Francis Vavris, it is my honor and privilege to welcome you to this event today. Both Dean Vavris and I hold a special place in our hearts and in our work over several decades for today's topic, the role of higher education, private sector, and civil society collaboration for the economic security of women. Dean Vavris, who sends her regrets for not being able to attend this session and welcome you herself, has spent the better part of her career working in Southern Africa, focused on girls' health and education. Since 2015, she has served as the North American representative on the joint ILO-UNESCO Committee of Experts on the applications of recommendations concerning teaching personnel. This committee is a multinational group of 12 experts that monitors international trends in education and allegations of violations of the rights of K-12 teachers and higher education faculty. I have a more limited experience, especially in the region, but share the passion for the work on girls and women's empowerment. In my work as Peace Corps volunteer, Peace Corps staff, and graduate student focusing on international education and development, I saw firsthand how educating women and girls directly leads to empowerment and economic development, not just for their families, but for the entire communities. I offer this example as an example of just two of us who work at UW-Madison and support the work of the women, work on the Committee on the Status of Women. You are about to hear from several more, those who are truly leading collaborative efforts in this area. In addition to those you will hear from, we have countless prominent alumni of our institution supporting these efforts, not least U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Proud Badger Linda Thomas Greenfield. The University of Wisconsin-Madison is a global institution in its truest sense. Since our founding 175 years ago, the university has welcomed international students and engaged in global scholarship, creating a worldwide reputation for academic excellence. Women have been part of this student body for at least 150 years of those 175, and we're proud of that. The International Division works to advance the reputation and promote global engagement in each new generation. We accomplish this by leading campus efforts in areas like study abroad, language learning, area studies scholarship, international collaborations, and by welcoming international students, staff, and faculty. At the same time, we develop programs that offer Wisconsin students and educators the chance to explore international issues and prepare them for their role in a global community. In these ways, we share Wisconsin with the world and the world with Wisconsin. The Women in and Wellbeing in Wisconsin and the World, or 4W, as you've heard, initiative is an exemplar program with this vision. 4W is a campus-wide effort hosted at the School of Human Ecology with robust representation from UW-Madison's diverse array of schools, colleges, institutes, and programs. I would like to thank them for preparing this program today with colleagues from McCary University, an institution with which UW-Madison has partnered in many, many ways over the decades. 4W leverages the strengths of UW-Madison to be a leading voice on education, applied research, and impactful engagement to promote gender equity, global well-being, and the full participation of women in society. In the words of Director Lori DePreet Brown, 4W aims to make life better for women and promote every kind of gender equity. It supports transformative projects and inspiring educational programming. Most importantly, 4W is a community, a circle of leaders who take action together to make life better for everyone. I agree with you, Lori, and thank you for allowing me and others to be part of this circle. We're so pleased to be partnering with friends and colleagues from McCary University, not only on this presentation to you today, but also on projects that bridge our institutions and our nations, offering valuable intercultural learning opportunities to advance many areas, including the status of women. Thank you for being in attendance today from different time zones around the world. I am confident you will enjoy the conversation that starts today and hold great hope that the discussions will continue well into the future. In this way, we all, and many others, will benefit from the insights of friends and partners around the world. Thank you.
Thank you for your warm welcome, Mai. I have the pleasure to invite Dr. Izobia Mugisha-Baine, the Director of the Gender Mainstreaming Directorate at McCary University, Uganda, to introduce our esteemed keynote speaker and facilitate the session. The Directorate is responsible for coordinating the implementation of the McCary University Gender Equality Policy and the policy and regulations against sexual harassment across Makerere University. Welcome, Uzobia. You're on mute. You're on mute, Uzobia.
Thank you, Debbie. We are very privileged to just sorry about that.
I think you have two devices on.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much. We are privileged to introduce our very own, one of the best people we have in Uganda with regard to the issue of empowerment of women and empowerment of women and girls across the board. I am happy to introduce Dr. Professor Maggie Blick-Chigozi, who is a Ugandan medical doctor, a business consultant, educator, sportswoman. She's the chairperson, the board of trustees of Makerere University Endowment Fund. She's a consultant with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. She formerly served as the executive director of the Uganda Investment Authority from 1999 until 2011. She's the first person and the first woman to serve in that position in Uganda. And in addition to the responsibilities already cited, Professor Chigozi has the following additional roles. She's the chief scout of the Uganda Scouts Association. She's an associate professor of economics at Makerere University. She's a member of the Global Banking Alliance for Women Advisory Board, patron Uganda Change Agents and Junior Chamber International. She's the director of the board of Uganda Export Promotions Board, member board of directors, Crown Beverages Limited, who are manufacturers and distributors of Pepsi Cola in Uganda. She's the founder of Uganda Investment Authority Women's Entrepreneurs Network. She's the focal point officer for the Africa-Asia Business Forum. She's also the patron of Uganda Diaspora Network. She's a sportswoman who has represented Uganda in lawn tennis, table tennis, hockey, and squash. And for the period up to 2011, Dr. Chigozi was the chancellor of Kumba University, one of the private universities in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, receive Dr. Professor Maggie Blick-Chigozi to speak to us as our keynote speaker. Thank you very much. You're welcome, Dr. Chigozi.
Thank you, Fabio. I put this a little bit high. Yes, thank you so much for holding this. Work for women is really critical, and providing, sharing this information with the rest of us that people have done is really, really helpful in giving us data, giving us information, so we can do better. So yes, you got my CV, Sabia. That was way too long, but anyway. Mine is to make some comments on the role of higher education, private sector, and civil society collaborations for the economic security of girls and women. I start with a disclaimer. I am not a gender specialist. I'm not an expert. And then I will tell you the why we are here. Why is this important? Why is it still an issue? We've been working on this for quite some time. I will briefly describe how the three sectors, higher education, private sector, and civil society collaboration have impacted my life experiences. Can an individual work in all three sectors? Is there a fourth area we should have considered, which is government and public sector? Next, please. Unfortunately, across the world, poverty does have a woman's face. Women experience higher rates of poverty than men, with 1 in 10 women living in extreme poverty. And what do we mean by extreme poverty? By definition, it is less than $2.15 per day, which is barely able to buy you anything. So the why? Why are we discussing this? The fight for gender equality is not new. History, indeed my own personal history, includes great women and men who have paved the way for me, for us, to be where we are today. There is still a long way to go. The Commission on the Status of Women expresses our understanding of the critical central importance of gender equality. In addition to being paid less for equivalent work than their male counterparts, we recognize that women spend nearly 3 hours per day more than the men performing unpaid care and domestic work. Opening remarks by UN Under-Secretary General and UN Women Executive Director Sima Bahous at the opening of the 68th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, the 11th of March, 2024. We can and must choose to end poverty for women and girls. Yes, higher education, as you see, that's me graduating and my proud mother and father. Yes, I did get that amount of higher education at least, as one of the privileged people that were educated. I benefited from Makerere University undergraduate degree, Master of Surgery and Bachelor of Medicine. I've been Chancellor, as you heard from Eusebio, Chancellorships of Nkumba and now Pentecostal University. And I am an Associate Professor with a degree of Makerere University. Also, I am always learning. So short courses in business, I got those again from Makerere University. This gave me confidence, you know, my imposter syndrome. It also gave me exposure, self-presentation, gave me networks. By having this higher education, that's what it gives you. Gives you networks, opportunity to rehearse, and informal mentors and role models, many, many of them. And the ability to benefit from what people term luck, being in the right place at the right time, but you are also the right person to be in that place. So you're lucky. And also great opportunity to have my voice heard in multiple very powerful offices. And my voice has been loudest for women and girls. I love this one. I love seeing girls in school uniform. Our children in Uganda have not always been able to go to school, but we now have universal primary education, secondary education. And yes, we are getting there where all girls can be educated. We're not there yet. It would be wonderful to see. This is a village school right next to me here in the village. So those were my experiences in education, in higher education. I've also had, next please, experiences in the private sector. I joined the private sector not because I wanted to. I had been a doctor for 17 years in Kenya, Zambia, and in Uganda. I joined business when my husband passed. He was running Crown Beverages Limited, which is an organization that produces Pepsi and Pepsi products, soft drinks. I was served very well by my baseline higher education. Being a doctor, having those two initials as a woman is a great is a big plus. So I built on this with the targeted short courses. When I first joined the company, there were actually no facilities for women. For example, toilets were not there. There was one secretary who had a tiny little one, and that was it. Everyone else in a manufacturing in Uganda, that was not surprising. This is 1994. There was only one toilet. And so I hadn't even realized I was a trailblazer this time in the private sector, not only in my own company, but in all the others. There were hardly any women. And today, 30 years later, in doing a lot of work, a lot of lobbying, and our CEO is female, and women are represented at every level throughout the institution. I offered opportunity to join Uganda Manufacturers Association. That was a big one. Just when I joined the private sector, I was also invited to sit on the board representing my company of the Uganda Manufacturers Association. Yes, I took it. We offer so many things to women, and often they think, but I don't know. And I truly did not know at this time much about business. But I learned on the way, and the Uganda Manufacturers Association really taught me a lot. I chaired the women's sector, I chaired the sector subcommittee in the Uganda Manufacturers Association. Yes, 6 years later, the position for Uganda Investment Authority, this is a government body that promotes investment, fell open. They needed someone with private sector experience at 6 years. Health was a good degree to have. We were trying to attract private investment into health as well. And so I did, apply for the job, and I got it. And as soon as I got there, one of the things that struck me is we had no women entrepreneurs at all. Nobody had licensed with us. A few years later, when we did a research with the World Bank, and we said, well, where were you? And they said, we're scared of you. You're bureaucratic. They didn't particularly like government institutions. So I set up what I call the UIA Women Entrepreneurs Network. We did research on the problems, and below are some of them, and tried to find the solutions together with government. Of course, this was a government institution, so we were directly able to make changes. So the biggest one that the women had, and they still do, many of them, is the lack of business and management skills, but also access to land. Our culture did not allow girls to inherit land. Land was inherited by the boy child. Access to finance, we had few banks at that time, and anyway, they were not really, they didn't think women were, they should support women at all. We had to work with them. There was a lot of bureaucracy in government. Women, as we know, as you know, we are very time short. You don't have time to go and line up in a ministry. You do have at the same time to go and pick your child from school, or, cook the food at home or something like that. We are so time short. So this bureaucracy, where government is slow, was really affecting the women. And yes, digitalization has really improved that. So we have many more women. And then the last one was patriarchy, which has improved considerably, but still we're not there yet. We still have husbands who say, no, my wife must cook my food. My wife must wash and iron my clothes. You wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is iron your husband's shirt and make his breakfast. And then he wants you to make his lunch and his dinner. And so patriarchy was another one that was really affecting the business women and preventing them from going out and succeeding. So civil society, that was the last one that I joined. Well, not completely the last. I did have, because of my husband, my boy child, my children, passion for scouting. So through scouting, we bring up, originally it was little boys alone. The fight for getting girls into scouting has been global. I won't say that was because of me, but it was a global fight. But certainly in Uganda, I made sure we had trainers who were women. So if they were camping, there was always a male leader and a female leader. So we made sure it would be comfortable for the girls to join as well in Uganda. So that was Scouting, my first civil society organization. And then sports. Yes, squash, tennis. Again, I did focus and was able to support the girls and get government as well to support girls. We are now doing very well. In netball, we are number 6 in the world. That is Uganda. We're doing well. We're very good at cricket and we're good at rugby and we're good at football, all those male sports that I never got an opportunity to play. Akina Mama Africa was the first. I want to thank the principal of the Department of Gender and the Social Services, who actually came to me and asked me to join. Akina Mama Africa is an Africa-wide organization. I was put in place following the Beijing conference, where they felt leadership. We needed young leaders young female leaders in Africa. So that's one of the things we do. But also, we are the voice of African women. So we advocate for women's rights. We are very happy with the SDGs. We seem to focus a lot on the women, and that we contribute at the local level in all the governments of Africa, but also at the African Union and also at CSW, at the UN. So Akina Mama Africa is a strong organization. I moved on to chair it for the last 8 years, and it's being pretty successful, and I'm quite happy that we've made that progress, turning out young, brave, strong leaders that are making a difference in the feminist world. Icon Enterprise is another enterprise that we run with Debbie, and we're all about families, good families. So yes, the women are critical, but it's not just the women. We are also, and the girls, but we're also concerned about the boy child, especially, and the men, and their role in families. And we do that as well as a civil society organization. UN Women appointed me SDG 5 ambassador, so I have the authority to make a lot of noise about women. And lastly, we really feel, and Icon is a part of this, that we need to bring the boys and the men on board. Our boys are terribly responsible. The men do not support the boys to be boys. And therefore, this is an area. So recently, we have a technical working group, includes a number of Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Health, and also a number of civil society organizations. And I represent the private sector there. And we are working to change the men and boys in Uganda as well. Yes, government wasn't here, but yeah, I've managed to try to be the female representation to guard women's interests in government, not alone. The women in parliament, the women in the civil service, we are all there, and all the NGOs, of course, civil society organizations. We do work with government and within government to try to support women or women interests at all times. Positions of strength throughout government institutional structures helps to ensure the female agenda always has a voice. My final thought, gender equity is not charity. Closing gender gaps in employment could boost GDP per capita by 20% across all regions. The return on investment on gender equality is a guaranteed win for any society. It therefore makes a lot of economic sense for us to be pushing for gender equality. Thank you. I don't know with question time now, but thank you very much for listening to me.
Dr. Izobia seems to have dropped off. Is she here? Oh. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, okay. Over to you, Dr. Izobia. Okay. Do you have any? Oh.
Hello. Thank you very much, Dr. Chigozi. We have privilege.
If you have two devices in the room, Dr. E, you need to.
Yes, we have removed one of them.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor Maggie Chigozi, for those very important insights that you shared with your journey. I think from your presentation, we can really see that we have come a long way to go, a long way, although we still have a lot of milestones to cover. But your life is a testament that things are possible when we collaborate between higher education, civil society, and the private sector. We can pull our energies together to make sure that we empower women, especially from the economic perspective, which really acts as a springboard for all the other aspects of life so that we can improve the life of women and girls across the board. Thank you very much. And we are really, really privileged to have you share our insights. Over to you, Debbie.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. E, and for moderating this keynote. And we're indeed honored to hear and learn from you, Prof. Maggie Chigozi, as usual. And thanks a lot for reminding us about the critical role of the other sector, which is government. And I now have the pleasure, before actually I invite Mary, I would just like to make sure that Prina and Grace are able to communicate with the participants. I see a couple of hands up. I see a couple of hands up, and please monitor that situation, Grace and Prina. It's now my pleasure to invite Mary Rathbun, the Gender Equity Lead and past President of the United Nations Association, USA Dane County chapter here in Madison, Wisconsin, to moderate a panel discussion. Mary is a friend, a mentor, a coach, and she has been on the board of the Dane County chapter of the United Nations Association for more than 10 years, serving in different capacities as Assistant Secretary, and Vice President before taking over the presidency of the board in January 2018. Under her leadership, this chapter took on a major initiative to educate the community about and work to get the principles of the UN Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women adopted locally. And Mary is so passionate about women leading in every area of life. So over to you, Mary.
Thank you, Debbie. I want to remind everybody, as it says in the chat, as the panelists are speaking and thoughts come to you that are questions or comments, please enter them into the chat. We have two people who are monitoring the chat, going to collect those comments and questions and make sure that when we get to the Q&A session, that the duplicates have been grouped together and each question gets addressed as it needs to be. Our panelist today is Gisela Kagi. Dr. Kagi is an assistant professor in the School of Human Ecology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Her research is in development economics with a focus on gender employment in low-income countries and the impact of early childhood and in utero health shocks on the later health and human capital accumulation. She has projects in Bangladesh, Ethiopia, and Ghana, and I think now in Uganda. Gazella, would you please take over and begin to talk about your work and what it means for all of us now? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary, for that very wonderful introduction. And I'm very happy and privileged to follow the amazing keynote speaker, and just very privileged to be here with you all today, and to talk a bit about my work and how this kind of really relates to the issues of gender equity and where we're at in the world and where we can go. So what I'm going to be talking to you today about is called Mind the Data Gaps. It's an examination of women-owned enterprise representation. Next slide, please. So as it was touched on very briefly in the keynote presentation, right, in low-income country contexts, micro-entrepreneurship is a growing and often women's only alternative to agriculture for work outside of the home. So it's really important to understand how women engage in and relate to micro-entrepreneurship. There's been a growing focus on understanding and reducing what is known as the gender profit gap. This is the difference in what women entrepreneurs are earning in profits from their businesses versus men entrepreneurs and what they're earning from their in terms of profits from their businesses. So most of our existing knowledge on this topic comes from micro data sets of very specific industries or very, very specific contexts. So for example, I have quite a bit of research on this in the Ghanaian context, but only using data that comes from garment makers, that comes from tailors. What we don't yet have or didn't yet have until I was able to do this research was kind of broad representative data that encompassed a lot of different types of enterprises and also a lot of different countries and contexts for both men and women to really understand, right, kind of these differences in enterprises owned by men versus enterprises owned by women. Next slide, please. So what I was able to do in this particular project and what I'm excited to talk to you about today is really a project that's come from 43 sub-Saharan African countries. So for 43 sub-Saharan African countries, what I've been able to do is synthesize 168 data sets on entrepreneurship. So these are businesses, right? All about enterprises of all different sizes and scales, from very, very small enterprises to very large enterprises. So there's multiple data sets for each country, and I'm able to look at this over time. So the key takeaways that I really want to talk to you about today is the following. So number one, more enterprises, we find in sub-Saharan Africa that more enterprises are owned by women than are owned by men. So it's a very common form of income generating opportunity for women, okay? Second, as the keynote kind of already alluded to, right, we also document on this wide scale that enterprises owned by women have lower profits on average. Okay, so we first find that there's more enterprises that are owned by women, but next we find that those enterprises have lower profits on average compared to men. Okay. The third thing we find, right, is that women enterprise owners are actually more likely to be systematically excluded from the largest data collection exercises because they are smaller. And so there's different sampling protocols through which data is collected on enterprises, and women are systematically excluded from many of these data sets because their enterprises are smaller. And so the kind of highlighting insight that we found, right, is that insights derived from the most commonly collected enterprise data, right, in sub-Saharan Africa are actually more reflective of the average male owner's experience compared to the average women owner's experience. And this is really important because this data, right, really informs policy, it informs research, it informs next steps. And so this point number 4 that I'm saying here is really the crux of the what I'm trying to get across, is that we really need good data on women to understand, right, potential policy implications and policy actions for women. Next slide, please. Here, I'm just showing you a simple graph where I'm showing you women are more likely to be enterprise owners. So I'm showing you over time. On the x-axis is time. Each dot there is a country. So you can see in 2009, the Ghana there is GHA. On the y-axis is at least, an enterprise has at least one female owner, right? So in Ghana in 2009, about 70% of the enterprises in the country are owned by women. So you can see, right, that this is roughly above 50, it's above 50%, and more enterprises are owned by women. Next slide. And now this is a similar plot, but what I'm showing you here is actually the sales or the profit ratio of the enterprises that are owned by women versus the enterprises that are owned by men. And what you can see on the y-axis is that all of these enterprises have a ratio lower than 1. So all of the, on average, right, enterprises owned by women are lower, have lower sales and lower profits than those enterprises owned by men. So this is a really important finding because I'm showing that it's like it holds for many different countries, for many different years, right, and many different contexts. So this is kind of like a broad stylized fact that has been talked about, but until this research, this data hasn't been put together and systematically looked at in this way. So the key takeaway that I really want to get across is that women-owned enterprises in sub-Saharan Africa are very prevalent. They're very common. However, they're smaller than their male counterparts. They're less profitable, right? And they're also less likely to be included in large data collection exercises. As I mentioned, this is very problematic because these large data collection exercises are often what influence policymakers in terms of the potential policy actions they can take. So what I'm doing as a researcher is my next steps are working with policymakers and national statistical agencies to make sure that women-owned enterprises are actually included in their data collection activities, right? So I'm really arguing that we need to include women in data, right, to get an accurate representation of how women are doing, and so that policy decisions and policy actions can be made accordingly. And I'm very happy to say that I've actually been in conversation with the Ghanaian government for over the last year, and the Ghanaian Statistical Agency is already implementing suggestions so that their most recent national census of enterprises will be much more representative of women. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gisela. She's emphasized something that I overlooked, because I'm not a scientist, I'm not a number person, but having those numbers in a form that is recognized and understood by the policymakers is so crucial to advancing the empowerment of women and girls, not only in sub-Saharan Africa, but throughout the world. Now I'd like to turn the stage over to another person who's also from Madison, Grace Trewartha. Grace is the CEO, founder of a business that works primarily with women to empower them financially. It is called Live Beneath Your Means. She also was one of the founders of an organization here in Madison called Own It, which helps women, particularly women who are Black or brown, to begin to build generational wealth for their family and for the future of women and girls in Madison. Grace, please take it over for us.
Thank you very much, Mary, for that introduction. And I just wanted to start by thanking Dr. Kigozi for sharing her story. And I found it to be inspiring, as well as an affirmation for a lot of the things that we're trying to do here in Madison and what I try and do through my own coaching and my practice. So indeed, as Mary alluded to, I'm going to talk today about a specific program in Madison that I helped found and run called Own It. And it very much takes a lot of the things we're talking about today and combines them in such a way that leads to more economic security for women and girls. And you know, as far as we are from Uganda, it's amazing how much how much echo there is in what they're saying to what I'm seeing locally on the ground here as well. So about Own It. So we talked about how private sector resources and civil society members come together to lead to greater women's economic security. So Own It does that. The program consists of two parts. One is an educational program that focuses on personal finance, focuses on how money works. And that's a lot of what I try and teach in my business, is teaching women to manage their own money, to feel like they are in control rather than the other way around. And it's something that I feel very strongly about and spend a lot of my time in various forums and in one-on-one situations to convey that. So that's the first part. The second part is money, is access to a down payment grant. And in these ways, it helps primarily women. You know, we've had probably 10 families buy homes through this program. And I would say more than half, if not more than 2/3 of them, are led by a female, a single female. So how do private sector resources and civil society members come together? The private sector resources are primarily in the form of, yes, money in the form of donations, but also expertise. So to facilitate the homeownership buying process, we need to get people who are in the industry. So the people who started Own It came from real estate. They are brokers, they are agents, they are mortgage lenders, they are appraisers, they are all the people who are involved in this financial transaction. And that's who founded this organization, and why a big reason is that we're building wealth via homeownership. The second group are civil society members. We wanted to look for a population that in fact targeted the groups of people that we were trying to support, as Mary said, Black and Brown families in Madison who have historically been excluded from building wealth in this way. And so we have partnered to start in our first pilot with a school, a public charter school in Wisconsin that services a population that is majority minority. And so that is the first group that we're working with as part of Own It. And in this way, with civil society and also neighborhood groups, Madison has a very bustling neighborhood group ecosystem where every neighborhood has an organization. That has been some of the source of our funding as well for the down payment grants. And in this way, different groups come together to support women and women's economic security in the form of access to homeownership in these two ways. So that's a little bit about the program. I'm really happy to report, as I said, that we've had about 10, almost 11 families. We have another closing coming up at the end of March, and we've brought them into their first home that they own. And in many cases, the first home that their family has ever owned in their lifetime. Next slide, please. So you'll notice that we talk about wealth via homeownership, and Professor Kay, you talked about profit, and profit or income that you get from your business is certainly a component of wealth, but we really very much, and in my practice as well with my own clients, focus on wealth. And wealth is defined as the difference between one's assets and one's liability. And I think this is key, because if we're talking about building up economic security, when we talk about building up a safety net for families, for women, it's not really how much money you bring in. It's not really how much income you have, but rather what you manage to keep of that income in every recurring period. It's your resources that you can tap into in times of need, potentially when you don't have income for one reason or another. And in my experience, it's a much better indicator of financial well-being than income. In the US, the income disparity between, say, white families and Black and Hispanic families is actually not that great. It's not, there is a gap, but it's nothing like the wealth gap. The income gap is about 60%. The wealth gap is about 6x. The typical white family has 6x the wealth of the typical Black family. And going back to Professor Kay's point about data, once you start digging into the gender data, the picture gets even worse. For a household led by a single Black woman, the essential wealth for that family is essentially zero. And frankly, that's not much of a safety net. So we are focused on wealth, in this case via home ownership. It is certainly not the only way. Next slide. There are lots of ways that people build wealth. I think Professor Kagi talked about things that happen in a child's health at a young age impacting later on outcomes in life. Absolutely. Professor Kagosi talked about the impact of education on her subsequent life trajectory. Absolutely important. Entrepreneurship, a fantastic way, both here and in other places, to build wealth. We, in this case, focused on housing for our initiative. Next slide, please. So home ownership is a great place to do it for a couple of reasons. I'm just going to go through a few of them here. Most people are used to making a recurring payment for housing, whether it's to a landlord or to a mortgage. That's a loan to buy a home here in the US. And that's usually the most critical expense in a family budget. It's the first thing you pay, and it usually has an outsized impact on the well-being of a household, certainly. The US has a very unique financing product. It's a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. A lot of people in the US are surprised when they find out that in other countries, to purchase a home, you have to have 50%, 70%, or maybe buy it entirely with your own monies. But the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, I think, makes homeownership a particularly effective way to build wealth in the US, and why we focused on it here. Real estate, once you have a home, can also be leveraged for income and cash flow relatively quickly and flexibly. You know, I always say women, you know, they think they have less knowledge about business and money, but actually, to me, money management is just risk management. And I find that my female clients are actually very good at risk management because they deal with a lot of them and they are able to juggle it, and they're actually more skilled at it, and subsequently more skilled at managing money once somebody, say a coach, just comes in and helps them with some of the language and some of the specifics, right? The technical terms and the like, but their instincts are in many cases very good. So you can open a home, and once you have a home, you can leverage it for, say, opening a in-home based daycare or bringing in somebody who needs a place to stay for a short or medium term. There's a way to turn that into cash flow very easily and flexibly. And then lastly, you know, and I certainly don't want to start going into tax codes here, but the federal tax code in the US does favor homeowners versus renters. So for these reasons and others, we at Own It decided to focus on this path to wealth and well-being. So certainly there are barriers which we're trying to address: financial education, the actual funds for that initial down payment. It's not that you don't need, you know, any money. You do need some money to put down, some percentage of the sales price to purchase a home. For some discriminatory and exclusionary practices and policies, Professor Kagosi talked about some of the cultural norms, but there are also literal legal barriers. You know, up until 1974, women were actually not allowed to take out loans in their own name, and they needed a male in their life to do so. And even after that time, when they could, they were often offered worse financing rates and worse options. You know, we talk a lot about financial wealth, but there are also other intangible forms of wealth that I think are as important, whether it's skills, networks, you know, the family wealth that could also help you. You know, those are things that also play a role in security at its basis level. And then, of course, cultural norms and traditions, which can differ widely between places. So thank you for your time. You know, I think really this session and all the people talking here understand that collaboration is key. I'm so glad we've already started talking about the public sector, because what I've learned is that to really change on a large scale, it's going to be hard not to seek to involve actual government and governmental bodies and legislators, because, you know, private sector resources are great. Yes, we want everybody to be involved, but, you know, but at the end of the day, I think the problem is so big, and as you know, we all know, we've been talking about this forever, and here we still are talking about it. So thank you for your time today, and I look forward to hearing what everyone else on the panel also has to share.
Thank you so much, Grace. I've got to tell you, as a person who lives in Madison, I know personally the kind of impact Grace is having on the community, both through her own business and through Own It. It is the landscape here and removing barriers for women. And I agree with her last point that government is necessary to take action. I remember not being able, I was a college professor and I could, with a full-time appointment, and I couldn't take out a credit card because I wasn't yet married. Once I was married, it was no problem. But before that, getting credit, even to buy a dress at a department store, was something I couldn't do. So she's right about the barriers. But another thing that's right in this program is that we talk about the collaboration between higher education, civil society, and private and the private sector. Well, our next panelist is going to highlight for us the importance of higher education, because our next panelist, Marriott Namiro, is a student. All the voices from higher education can't come from the faculty. The students and what they learn and what they carry forward to their peers and to the next generation is crucial to the collaboration that we're talking about here. Merritt will be talking about a program that she has been instrumental in organizing at Macquarie University, where she is a student. And it basically, the word translates discover yourself. And I'm really anxious to hear her explain how discovering ourselves is going to help empower us economically. Marriott, please take over.
Thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Namiro Marriott. I'm a Bachelor of Students, Industrial Chemistry final year student at Macquarie University, and it's an honor for me to be here. I've been serving as the 89th Vice Guild President of Macquarie University. Ladies and gentlemen, as we navigate the role of civil society, public sector, and higher education collaborations to enhance the economic stability of young women and girls, I'd love to take you through a very short story of a young lady by names of Rita Nakaswija. This lady is 25 years old. She's a 2015 graduate of Macquarie University, and she has been home for over 8 years now because the job that she expected to get in her line of study was unfortunately not given to her, and she was not skilled enough to start up her own investment. Rita narrates that one of the major challenges that she has faced during her job search were gender stereotypes, economic frustrations, but most importantly, have been being asked to exchange her body for a job. This completely terminated her job hunting courage. I'll take you through another story of another lady by names of Adria Christine from Amuria District. She was also a graduate of dental surgery from Macquarie University. And 1 year down the road, she hadn't gotten a job. That was in 2022. So she decided to enroll in the Uganda Tailors Association to learn tailoring, because her passion was to become one of the greatest fashion designers. And well enough, presently as we speak, she owns a fashion designers shop in Kampala. And yeah, she says she's next to her journey of success. Next slide, please. As we speak right now in Uganda, we have over 400,000 graduates every year with over 130,000 of them from Makerere University. According to the Uganda Investment Authority, 150,000 jobs are created every year. And these jobs majorly target highly qualified individuals, highly connected individuals, and some of them are actually transformed into family businesses, which leaves over 62.5% of the rest of the graduates jobless or even succumbing to vulnerable employment opportunities with inadequate earnings and low productivity. A reason as to why we as the students of Makerere University came up with an initiative to establish the Mark Wezule project last year during March, and it has been in service for 1 year. Wezule is a Luganda word that means discover yourself. So it is a project that is meant for self-discovery. Who am I? What can I do? What are my passions? How else can I improve my life rather than depend on what I'm taught in class? How can I connect what I'm taught in class to what is happening in the outside world? And that was the basis onto which this project was established. It was established majorly to curb the growing trends of youth unemployment in Uganda, and it covers all fields of science, arts, technology, and business, with emphasis on interdisciplinary collaboration. Next slide, please. The Wezule project has various beneficiaries. We have students and fresh graduates, but we do put much emphasis on young women and persons with disabilities, because these are the people that are majorly affected by youth unemployment. We also target sponsors and investors that would wish to invest in the different startups of such people, which has made us outstanding as a student initiative. The Wezule project has various objectives, the core one being to bridge the gap between academia and the professional world, to foster entrepreneurial mindset, foster innovation, boost self-esteem of students, especially young ladies, and develop the necessary skill set among university students. We also make sure that the activities we do cover a very wide scope of students' disciplines, such that a doctor is able to connect with a teacher or a scientist or an art student when it comes to the job field. Next slide, please. The Wezule project has a mission, vision, and core values, just like any other projects, as they are projected on the screen. Next slide, please. And because we are a student-led initiative, we had to look into the different things that bring down students. We have students that are disabled. You have students that are criticized because of being women. You have students that are criticized because of their financial backgrounds. And at Wezule, we believed that it's not actually about what your physical appearance is, but it's about the potential that you carry within you. And that is why our core values are innovation, empowerment, inclusivity, and integrity. Attached to that slide is a picture of students after one of the sessions that we hold at the Mark Wezule project. Next slide, please. At Wezule, we do various projects. And as we speak right now, after a year of service in Makerere University, in this month of women, we've managed to have workshops and trainings to give students skills like that was given to Christine, to help them gain self-confidence, help them believe that they can do something else rather than sit down at home expecting to get the white-collar jobs that they are trained to, that are also less for every student to be given. We've had career guidance sessions for students from different disciplines. We've had entrepreneurial competitions. mentoring and support sessions, funding pitches. And off today, we are organizing an entrepreneurial competition within for the students within Makerere University. Next slide, please. And at Wezula, as students, it's a startup. We've just made 1 year old in service. And of course, we do have future aspirations, one of which is alumni engagement for both students from Makerere University and those that have been students of the Wezula project. And we hope that in future we'll have a way of bringing them back to our project such that they help other students start up like they did. We would love to have it integrated into the formal curriculum such that students are not only taught to compete for white-collar jobs, but to also be creative and innovative enough to start up on their own and probably create employment for the rest that cannot. We would also wish to have more international collaborations like this one. This is a very great honor for us to be celebrating 1 year in service, and we already have an international collaboration between Makerere University and the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and we really hope for more of this, especially in the presence of students, where we can share different ideas and see how to develop ourselves as youth. We also look forward to spreading the gospel of inclusive entrepreneurship, such that everyone is looked at according to their potential and not their physics. Next slide, please. As students that have been through the challenges brought by stereotypes from community, low self-esteem, having to do courses that we are not interested in, probably because they were given to us on government sponsorships with no ability to sponsor ourselves privately. We have various challenges that we've been through, and we hope that maybe if such suggestions are put into practice, we would have a better future for young women and girls like us. And we suggest that we would have more partnerships and networking opportunities like this one, more mentorship programs, support of such student startups by institutions of learning, and most importantly, financial and technical support to these startup projects. Now, the Wezula project is under the Makerere University Innovation Hub. And we have been mentored by one of the great ladies in Makerere University, Dr. Kathy Bide, the director of Makerere University Innovation Hub. And with this mentorship, we've come up with something that has made us reach a point like this, which leaves a challenge to various institutions out there and nations to either choose a life like Critters, where every student has to struggle and breed unemployment rather than prevent it, or a life like Christine, where a student can be creative and innovative to come up with something for themselves rather than sit back at home waiting for a job that might never come. I want to thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this panel discussion, and I hope that it has been insightful to us all. Thank you for listening.
I think we have no doubt that you are a creative innovator and are going to do wonderful things in the future. You have shown you can put together a professional organization under the leadership of the Innovation Center, but you have taken it way above and beyond what most undergraduate students could do. Thank you very much for your work, and we wish you the very best in the future. Our final speaker today is anger. You know, we talk about the private sector. Well, Beatrice Lugalambi is the general manager of corporate Communications for Centenary Bank in Uganda. She's going to be talking about how her bank is helping women to break the barriers to the access to financial strength. Please take it over for us, Beatrice.
Thank you, Mary, for that kind introduction. I'm happy to be here on this panel to be able to present the Superwoman program under Centenary Bank under the theme, Breaking Barriers to Women Access to Financial Services and Empowerment in Uganda. I'll give you a brief background of who Centenary Bank is and what are our strengths so that you can understand how we are able to serve the rest of the country. We are the second financial banking partner in the second position. We are the leaders in microfinance and SME. We are the leading commercial microfinance bank with the largest footprint of branches. Agents are 8,000 plus, the largest force of employees, 3,300 plus. We dedicate 20% of our lending portfolio to agriculture to enable us be able to reach the rural areas. And we are the only indigenous bank that has been able to break borders and go to Malawi. And our focus is on the people, planet, and prosperity in order to transform lives. Now, under Centenary Bank, we did a business case for the Superwoman. Generally, as you know, a bank offers financial services to everybody, and we admit the male and the female. Our total banking population is over 3 million right now, but at that time, when we started interrogating our data in 2014, we found out that the women are only accounted for 28% of our banking population, with low savings of average of about $26, and the women loans were about 10% of the total loans in the bank. This provided us with a business case to be able to go and research about who our women are and why they are not financially included. So the Superwoman program was launched after the research that we made to increase women's financial inclusion and accessibility with the aim of addressing the gender gap in banking services. What did we find out? We found out that the women told us that for us, we just need special care. Treat us special, we will bring our children, our families, and our networks. They needed information. They said, we want independence and freedom to be able to make our choices with a little money in our pockets. And they wanted to be able to get access to assets and collateral once we made them more stronger. They affirmed that they could compete with the male, compete in the male-dominated world. Told us, leave us, give us what we need, and we shall compete. So we went ahead and we developed that. The barriers that we wanted to address as we went through that aspirational model was to break the social and cultural norms that hindered the women. Dr. Maggie has spoken about it, the previous people have spoken about it, but in our case, we went ahead to work with the cultural kingdoms to see how best we can be able to give women special interests in land which they could not own, owned by landlords, which we call chibanja. And we could be able to use the chibanja, the special interest in the land, to avail them with some engagement, and they can be able to become who they are. Why the name Superwoman? Superwoman was aspirational. Like you say, Superman of the world. So being the Superwoman, it gave an aspiration to the woman to feel super, to feel special, to feel they could be able to fly. So the next thing that we did was to look at the limited collateral and capital and how we could be able to help them access that. We also looked at issues to do with gender violence and why some of the people were sitting at home in terms of children and how the women could be able to cater for household and increase household income. The lack of information was high, the access to rights, but basically what we found out was that there was a lot of fear to be able to treat in areas that were not chartered. So there was also low participation in decision making in the household, and the women wanted to have a voice. So we went further. As we went further to be able to engage, next slide, please, we also looked at our target markets and the linkages that we could be able to make. As we assess the Superwoman program, this program targets the people that it mobilizes all the women into a financial inclusion engagement. We pours them into the banking arena, and then women who are economic entrepreneurs get into the program. We do not target the high-end women. We target women with a turnover of at least $1,000. So in our target market, we are trying to tell the women who are telling us, break the glass ceiling for me. Those are the women in the small shops. They want to grow bigger. We start our program by educating people in schools. Those are the children, to be able to know how they come into the banking arena. We tell them about this program so that they can aspire to grow and become, when they're of age, to be able to get there. We also have a program which is the Higher Education Financing Student Board program, which admits science students into university on the government pay, and the students pay later. We also tell these students that you can be able to start your side hustle, including the university students, and later on you can pay even when you haven't finished university. So the Wezule program is one of the programs that has also had an engagement with us, and we shall continue to have an engagement to see that we work with them. We work with women in markets, farmers, traders. The age bracket for the Superwoman is from 21 to 65. And they must be economically active entrepreneurs, aspiring to grow her social and business networks, and basically located in peri-urban and urban areas. The split of peri-urban and urban areas, in peri-urban, we look at 40% and urban areas 60%. The rural population, we educate it so that once they can be able to aspire, they come onto that engagement. We grow our women through a number of areas. Next slide, please. And we give them a value proposition. We target groups, women in groups, women in village savings and loan associations. We form the circles, we form the village groups, we build them up from, we also encourage women who are in joint engagements to open joint accounts, and we also encourage them to grow. And once they have grown the groups, the individuals, we can be able to form them into bigger circles and into investment clubs so that they can have a graduation and they can be able to do big, big things. The value proposition is financial literacy education, medical insurance at discounted rates. We give them platforms on which they can market their products, physical exhibitions, WhatsApp groups, among others. We give them networking opportunities on a national scale, mentorship, role modeling with people who have made it so that they can be able to aspire. We give them access to free legal services so that they can be able to address needs that they feel they need to be able to address. And we work with Legal Aid Uganda to be able to do that. So as we went through our value proposition, the women came back and said, hey, wait a minute. We are free. We have brought us into the bank, but now we need discounted loans. And we also offer discounted loans to them that are also backed by guarantees, because most of them do not have security. So that we do a 50-50%, and they can be able to get loans. The non-collateralized loans, they can be able to get up to 1,350 without collateral, and as they build capacity, they get access to property, we can be able to scale them up. Next, please. Our superwoman ecosystem, therefore, when you look at those who are able to come out of the banking population to get into the program, they are within the age of 21 years to 34 years, and these are 38% of the superwoman program. Those who are 35 to 65 are 62. Our ecosystem in the sectors that we do, you'll find that trade and commerce takes the largest sum, where our women are situated in the markets, and the rest is as you see in the program. We want to extend more of the services to agriculture, women in processing, production, and we need to be able to grow more, and those who are in processing and manufacturing. Next slide, please. So our success story from the time that you saw that we started in 2015, after we had put in the Superwoman program, we have seen a lot of women in the formal and informal sector coming up to be able to do engagements. For example, when we start with a woman in a small corner of a shop, they've been able to take up large shops. They've been able to add in agent banking services that also help them to serve other people as a bank within a bank, because the agents are part of the bank, and they're able to go further and venture. So from the financial included women in the total bank, we managed to raise the women from 28% in the bank, they are now at 40%, with an average saving right now moving from $26 to $70. We have been able to subscribe over 35,000 women onto the program in our 10-year anniversary, and we are going to do more. And we have been able to have women access loans from 10% previously to 38% and still growing. So the positive impact that we have had on the women is improved business management through the financial literacy, scaled up and diverse businesses, as I've already told you, increased acquisition of assets, including land, increased voice in the workplace, increased networks and participation and partnerships. We've seen women partner on projects, and we have also seen women get opportunities to go and present their merchandise abroad. But most of all, the key thing that we have seen in our women is the increased confidence to venture into new areas. Because they have seen other women tell them it can be done, they have also been able to ask for more and more engagements. Next, please. So our Superwoman program has special products tailored to promote financial empowerment. We have talked about the Superwoman account, the loan, and in addition, we give them special services in our banking halls. So when a Superwoman comes, she's identified, they love the experience to walk through and have VIP treatment. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to become a Superwoman person, please change the slide. We invite you to come into our bank, and we only have 3 key things that you need. Just $50,000 to open an account, a valid identification, 2 passport photographs, and you can open an individual account, a joint account, a group account, and we will grow you from where you are, and then you can be able to grow better. This is our story at Centenary Bank. Thank you for listening to me.
I gotta say, your story at Centenary Bank is really impressive. What you have done in 10 years makes me so excited to hear what you're going to do in the future. And now I believe we're going to move on to the discussion session. And so I turn the program over to someone else. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Mary, for moderating that session. Thanks to all the panelists. I'm literally on fire myself. So just before I hand over to invite Naomi to moderate the next session, I would like to recognize the presence of Honorable Peace Regis Mutuzo, the Ugandan Minister of State for Gender and Culture. You're very welcome, Honorable. Okay, so I'll now hand over the mic to Naomi. And Naomi is another colleague and mentor. She's the executive director of HERS East Africa, and she's going to lead the next session, a Q&A session.
Thank you, Debbie. Just checking that everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's almost like thank you doesn't do enough justice. Like Debbie said, you're not the only one, Debbie, who is feeling like you're on fire. The Honorable Minister and her team, whom I humbly acknowledge, I hope that we are beginning to give a flavor of how working with the communities can actually collectively help to lift the women's agenda, so that it's not just a unique thing that's within the Ministry of Gender, but it is a community-wide, institution-wide, nation-wide issue. And here we are trying to pull together. So going right back from our keynote address, who I've had the pleasure of listening to Professor Maggie Kigozi several times, and I still cannot have enough of her inspirational story. So going back to all the things she shared with us, her life story, her professional journey, and really being one of those firsts so many times. That was really inspirational. We've then just been treated to a whole variety of speakers, of women sharing their different experiences in different fields. We had Dr. Kegi sharing her powerful research data. Like the moderator of the session said, Mary, you don't have to be a mathematician or scientist to be hit by the significance of the data that you shared with us. Significantly, women being predominant, the majority of entrepreneurs, and yet also dominating the world of women poverty. There is an irony there, and that data helped a lot. We listened to Grace, who brought home the fact that women provide thankless tasks in terms of unacknowledged and remunerated community work. And it is really good to see that this is well, shouldn't be good, but it's reassuring to know that it's a global thing. Whether you live in the North or the South, women tend to share this thing of being care workers. And then you dovetail that Dr. Kegi's, where it is completely missing from the whole thing of how any nation's gross domestic product and wealth is calculated. We had a treat to a student representative giving us hope beyond perhaps what we were able to do in our days when we were at Makerere University and generally university, where you focused on your books, waiting to get a job when you graduate. It is wonderful to see that young people have gotten into the habit of trying to do both. I like the idea of side hustle that Beatrice Lugalampi alluded to. We at HERS, I didn't have a chance to say anything, but HERS, Higher Education Resource Services, provides leadership training for women, particularly in higher education, so that women can rise beyond being lecturers and become deans and vice principals and principals and deputy vice chancellors, and there is no end to it. So we introduce, alongside the professional growth, we also like to bring to light the fact that you can do those side hustles, and there's no harm in it whatsoever. They all sit together really well. So maybe you're one of those on fire about something that you wanted to hear by a specific panelist, but you did not, and you feel like you really want to make that point. That will be very welcome. Perhaps you had something mentioned and you felt like you could have done with a little bit more clarification. You want to ask a question, and maybe you were so focused you didn't want to distract yourself by typing the question in the chat box. Your opportunity is coming, and maybe it's just a general point, a general observation that you want to share with everyone else. I take a simple view that nobody knows everything. and everyone knows something. We are excitedly waiting to hear from you. So I will request Prina to look out, because we could miss a hand. Please put your hand up, or quite simply unmute and say whatever it is you want to share with us. Question form, it can go to a specific panelist, or it can go to all members of the panel. Feel free, and we welcome. This is your opportunity to have your say. Thank you so much. So the floor is open now. Do we have any questions, any comments, any interjections? By the way, that includes panelists as well.
I'll make a comment while people are thinking. My name is Lori DePreet Brown. I'm the director of the 4W Women and Wellbeing Initiative. And I just want to, I have loved this panel. I see many ways in which even just the work of these panelists and those commenting here can relate to each other. For example, we have somebody in the comments talking about the work in the SOS Village, the microenterprise work in Uganda. I've worked in SOS villages around the world, in Dharamsala and in Honduras, and that's a very interesting space to think about, you know, developing this thinking. And the one thing that rose up to me as a theme, perhaps, is, you know, when you ask women what they want, they'll often say, like, you know, a safe and happy home. And whether we're talking about housing or income or land, you know, those are all parts of that reflection. And I think I do a lot of work with the SDGs, and you all have made me think critically about my work. I love the SDGs. However, when we talk about poverty, it's parsed up in a weird way, that we want to be satisfied when there's no extreme poverty. And what will be left if we eliminate all of that is still a lot of people who don't have homes and the kind of security that is being characterized by what Gisela and Grace and all of the panelists have talked about. So, you know, centering the home again, and centering a notion of, you know, if you don't have poverty, what do you have? And defining things by negation is only part of the way. What is the happy home, you know, that has enough, and what is the community and society without sort of excess in the wrong places, is part of envisioning what a world without poverty is. And I think it shows that we have a way to go when we're saying no poverty and no hunger, instead of, you know, what the abundance looks like. So I guess the people at this table of I think there's over 50 of us, maybe we're a community that can be thinking about that. Hopefully there's some questions in the chat, but I just wanted to share my gratitude to everyone. I'm so proud to be a part of this circle.
Thank you, Laurie. Friend, I'm relying on you to catch any questions in the chat that we may have missed. In the meantime, I just want to encourage you, you can either unmute and share your thoughts like Laurie did, or ask your questions.
My name is Grace, and I am an intern for 4W Initiative. I have a question for Dr. Maggie, specifically what drew her to the work that she's doing, and how did she become this amazing trailblazer for gender work? And also, how did Dr. Maggie find the confidence to become such a forefront of this amazing work she's been doing? That's, I guess, my question for her.
Thank you, Grace. I can't spot Maggie. I don't know if she's still available.
Right here.
Oh, there she is.
Yes. Thank you. That's yes. It's a scary question, but what drew me to the work that I do? The first thing was I started too late. I really feel guilty about that. Why? Because I had many advantages. I was born with 4 brothers, a father and mother that doted on me. So I had all the privileges. Not that we were very rich, but whatever was there, I got. And I knew I was loved and I was protected. And I was able to go through medical school and, start working. And so when I met my classmates, I was at a school called Gayaza High School. My classmates were with Akina Mama Africa. They were with, Hilda was with another, Hilda Tadria and others. So they took me to attend an AWDF event that was taking place in Uganda. That was an eye-opener for me. I thought, oh my God, I didn't know what happens to the other women who are not me. I have so many advantages. So I was brought up with that confidence, therefore, which is, I guess it is helpful that I didn't think I should step down for anybody. I didn't think men were important. I had 4 brothers, and I actually have been working only almost purely with men most of my life. So I had that standing for me. The day my eyes opened about young girls being pregnant at 12, I work with Wakisa Ministries. You go there, you cry. 12, 14, 16, one is having a 3rd pregnancy and things like that. So when I saw that GBV and all that we fight for the women, those most serious aspects. And then as I worked along, I recognized that, it's not only where things are really bad, but also in the economy, in so many other areas. So that's how I got to become a feminist, and I started doing the work that I do. Yes, that was it. Can I ask a question to Centenary Bank? Well, just to comment that when we worked with the women, my UIAWN, one of the issues was the bankers are not friendly. I remember we actually went to her and told her that her security guards were chasing the women away. The women were coming in their traditional dress, holding a whole basket full of money. And when we told her that was the start of the Superwoman, that the women were actually scared of bankers. They were actually not scared of her herself. They would wait outside, give her a call and say, I'm coming to see you. And then she'd actually go down and pick them up. That was how bad it was, how bad the bankers were. But they've changed, they've really, really changed, and we're really happy. So thank you and congratulations. Superwoman is really making a difference.
Thank you, Dr. Baggy. We are really happy to have that endorsement for you. What I can say is that we listen and we change and we deliver so that we can have a better place for our people.
Beatrice, are there any other? I just wanted to pop out what Maggie said. Really, Maggie's presented herself so modestly. And I love how she's told the story and illustrated how Beatrice stepped up to go and rescue these women, because these are some of the very real stories of the intimidation that women face. And so to have another fellow woman at the helm come down from her office, I think that sends such a powerful message of endorsement to the women, and in a sense, subtly telling these security guards that they really need to style up a little bit. So we need more Beatrice Lugalambis, and we need more Maggie Kigozis to actually bypass the security guards and talk to the top. Any other questions, please? Thank you.
I just want to check with Prina that she's able to either read the Q&A, or just to check if she can see people. Yeah.
We have a lot of comments.
Okay.
Most of them are comments of appreciation that the presenters have shared with us. We do have one question. Okay. So this is a question by Regina, who's asking, do any of you use business incubators in your programs or projects to help their participants? And do you have any thoughts or ideas on developing them?
I assume that can be addressed by any member of the panel who feels they have a response. Thank you.
Yes,
I can.
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead, Beatrice.
No, I think Dr. Maggie, go first. I'll come last. It's okay.
Are you bending to age? Age before beauty. All right, that's fine. Yes, we do have incubators. Makerere University has just come up with an iPod, brand new, working with UNDP. And we now have, digitalized, we're able to digitalize most things. That's brilliant at the university. And it's not only for Makerere, so any university student can come in and use it. And then we have business incubators. We have at the in our industrial park, we have a business incubator, and we have a few others coming up. I made sure I gave land when I had the opportunity to give land to incubators. So even the Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association are putting up their own incubator in the industrial park. And Uganda National, I forget what it is, but yes, we did give them land, and they have a beautiful incubator that's ongoing. As well as food and science, food science in Makerere, they have a beautiful incubator with machinery, value adding to agriculture products. But of course, only a few people can benefit for those. So yeah, yes, we do need much more. Thank you.
Beatrice?
Okay. Basically, we need to do a lot more in terms of working with the business incubators. Because the challenge is that there's a lot of silo engagement around in the country, and in getting people to link to banks, access to credit, and also access to seed capital. However, the bank works with a few of those, like Innovation Village, which is a digital transformation hub for youth. We also work with the NSSF High Innovator. That also helps youth to be able to put their ideas forward. They're given seed capital. They need a bank to be able to work with. We give them financial information, and then we also give them scale-up capital after their seed capital has been utilized. So indeed, we need a lot more. There's also industrial research. That's the hub. But I think the key thing here, which I take note of, is that we will be able to look for all these engagements such that we can have a holistic, non-financial and financial support to most of these women. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice.
Excuse me, Naomi. I've just seen a message from Carol Bailey. Do you see her question, Prina?
Carol does not have a question. She has more of a comment, but we do have another question from Sheila. I can read that out. So I'm going to jump ahead to the question. And they're asking that, they're basically saying that higher learning opportunities can do a lot in changing situations in families and communities. I, however, have seen this become challenged by lack of funds. What do banks have for young ladies who need funds to be able to pursue their dreams? And is it something that could be looked into about where loans are given to brilliant students to aid them getting to higher learning institutions?
Is that a specific member? Or can we just have any panelists jump in and help?
But it sounds like Marriott might have mentioned that some of the students in the undergraduate group were a little bit limited by the public funding from government organizations or elsewhere, because it actually forced them to choose a particular field of study. I apologize if I'm putting words in your mouth. That's what I recall from your presentation. So I'd be curious to hear, what I imagine it's a pretty expensive proposition for most families to do that in the US as well.
If I may chip in, like I mentioned, we are the only partners to governments in the Higher Student Financing Education Board. That all helps science students only to be able to get into university on a student loan. That is what is available right now. Other interventions in the country are still way below average. So we are trying to encourage more participation in this area, especially for the arts. But for right now, the government is supporting the science to be able to propel them more to get into university and to do industrialization. So on the other part, I think what usually in our country, the students do is either to do part-timing jobs, or to some of them, I see them also running in the markets, delivering foodstuffs to be able to pay for their education. It is a tough world. They don't have that much kind of money to be able to do that. On the other part, as Centenary Bank, we have what we call youth loans for youth who are able to come together, like I said, in joint groups, to form circles, to form village saving groups in the formal and informal sector. They bring together a project. As long as the project has been running for about 3 months, we are able to give them some capital at about 10%, and we keep on monitoring to see that they are able to grow. So we kind of work with governments and the municipals to be able to have a matching grant that helps the youth to be able to scale up. And we've seen the uptake has been tremendous. It has almost bottomed out, but this also continues to be an avenue that we popularize to get the youth in. And if we cannot do that in other aspects, the circles where the groups kind of pull money together, they start lending to themselves and people can go to school. But that is what we have at the moment. Thank you.
Wonderful. I don't see any other hands.
There's one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In the
Go
chat
ahead.
that just popped up. This
Yeah.
one is for Dr. Maggie, and the question is there any barriers, challenges, or abuses to girls and women in higher institutions from your experience?
Absolutely. Sexual harassment and is still an issue, but it has been tackled head on, I know, at my old university, Makerere University. Studies were done. The Department of Gender was very strong on this. And of course, the Vice Chancellor is not taking nonsense on this. So a lot of progress has been made, but I think we are still not perfect. The girls still have some difficulties with sexual harassment. Others would be, yes, the school fees issue. Often they run out of school fees halfway, midway. The parents have tried or relatives have tried, and then they have to drop out of school. That has also happened. That often happens, is one of the issues that happen. But getting into university, we are really proud of the figures now. Every graduation is 52%, 54% women graduating. So we do have some successes. When I was there, we were 10%. We were 10% at the university. Out of 110 medical students in my class, only 11 of us were girls. So you can see now it's 50-50 or more even. There are more girls because we do have a preference of 1.5 points as girls to get into university. If you have the same grades, you are more likely to be taken than the boy is. Challenges, yes, our infrastructure is poor. That's why I chair the Makera Endowment Fund. We are seriously trying to raise funds from our numerous alumni out there to help us to improve the infrastructure. The school fees that are paid are really, really low to what is required. I think a survey done a few years ago on what a student should pay ideally, like they would pay in other universities. In any, my children went to the UK. If they paid something like that, we could repair all the bathrooms and everything, the infrastructure, the water. But now we can't, because they only pay like $1,000, less than $1,000 a term, a semester. And that is way, way below what is required if you're going to pay the staff. And yes, so it is a problem, but the feeling is that ours is a government university. Others do charge a little bit more, but ours is a government university, and we should allow all the people from all districts, from the rural areas, to be able to come in. We could very easily, if we put it up to 10 million, those who can pay, and Ugandans can afford, as Beatrice will tell you, we have rich Ugandans. They would actually fill the university, but that's not what we want to see. What both the government and the university want to see, we want it to be an opportunity for everyone. So that's it. We pay too little for that school fees, which you hear already we cannot pay. Many cannot pay. And then we fail to pay even that. So it really is not enough. So we're working with the endowment fund to see if alumni and donors and others can help us. And we support the university, we support local research. What happens now is, yes, donor-funded research is sometimes skewed to what the donors are looking for, our partners are looking for. We want Ugandan research to be done, and we support it as the endowment fund. We would like to give scholarships. Our disabled children, yes. So I didn't mean to digress into a discussion on the Makere Endowment Fund. Thank you.
And Marriott Namiro, you have your hand up. If you could quickly say what you need to say, please, so we can bring this session to a close. Thank you. You're muted, Marriott.
Thank you so much. Now speaking in my capacity as a student, I would really love to know more about what we students can do in order to amplify our voice, in order to amplify our statuses economically as young women from the public sector and civil society. Because right now we are students, but we're going to graduate and leave campus. And at the end of the day, we'll have to engage with community. So what more can we do right now within our institutions of learning in order to amplify our abilities and develop ourselves?
I get a feeling, Beatrice, since you already have a presence, perhaps you can guide Marriott a little bit more. Thank you. Or any other panelist.
And while she's at it, there's another question for Beatrice about where registration for the Superwoman is. Okay. Beatrice, if you could, address both questions quickly.
What is the second question? I bottomed out on the internet,
okay.
So I'm
Beatrice,
just back.
Beatrice Okello wants to know where registration in the Superwoman program can be done. Oh, is it available in every centenary branch in Uganda, i.e. Entebbe, Gulu? Yeah.
Yes, it is available in every centenary branch, our 80 branches. You can be able to register for the centenary, for the account. You can also register using your phone for that account if you're an individual. But if you're a joint, you want to be a joint engagement or a group, you need to come to the bank. but we're always able to help you to get into any form of arrangement. Marriott, I didn't get you. I had some intermittence here. Just quickly just recap for me, and then I'll be able to do that for you.
Okay. I think Marriot's question, I hope I'm
Yes.
not putting words in her mouth, but I don't see. Her question was around what else can they, as young women who are about to graduate, do to get themselves prepared economically?
Yes. Basically, it is a mindset engagement. That's first of all. How do you prepare yourself to be able before you graduate? What are you doing before you do that is through your networks. How do you get into your networks? You can even call us as a bank. We are all over every university in this town. We attend all your bazaars. We also, the Wezule project is a very good platform which we can be able to use. How do you prepare yourself? Prepare yourself. I was at university and I used to have just a little bit of capital, just small monies, but I would buy the things that the girls liked, and you accumulate a few things. These are some of the things we can be able to be to move on with. How do you save? Have a bank account. My philosophy is whole numbers. What does whole numbers mean? I had a bank account at a very early age, but every time I had 1,101, I would make it 1,102. You know, every time it will be able to encourage me to save and do something small. So when we are encouraging the university people, come for our internships, be able to get into any side hustle, even if it is just your small, you can even lend your money to somebody else and get a profit, but you must prepare your mindset to be able to say, I'm willing to work. Most of the people come into the job market thinking the jobs are there, and they get disappointed. 40,000 people coming out of universities and only a few get jobs. It is it's just so mind-boggling that you need to start early if you want to be able to get into an engagement. That side hustle, every young girl now has a side hustle. We are teaching girls in schools to save something small. We are into Rotary clubs. We are the biggest partners for Rotary in Uganda, which is a community-based engagement where all young girls and Rotarians are, who get into community engagements for voluntary action. But in these areas, we have formed circles to enable them to borrow and lend themselves. Those are called the circles. That is why you start with those small capital, and then you can be able to develop your side businesses. So preparing yourself to go out there, you need to build systems, and engage associations you can join for even just the knowledge. The knowledge is power. We get all people who have done businesses, and they teach these people how to go about it. So knowledge is power, which is first of all, and then you can be able to start something, and then you go on. But Marriott, I think we can take this offline, but you must be able to get into networks that join hands and be able to avail you with something you can do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. I am looking at the clock. Oh.
Can I add one small thing to that one?
Sure.
She is very educated, right? You can sell your skills. You know, I remember coaching tennis, coaching table tennis, you can coach something that you know that you've been learning at the university. Seek for the ones who need those skills, need that coaching, and sell it. So that's an easy one, services.
I know we have run out of time, Naomi, but just in 1 minute, we have a digital native in my bank who has been able to go and sell services on YouTube. And they're still in university, but they have the highest balances on university student accounts because they have used their skills to go digital and they're earning big, but they're still in university. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, with that multi-generational, inspirational piece of advice, on behalf of all the participants, I want to thank wholeheartedly all our panelists, our inspirational keynote speaker. I think we all leave this panel feeling energized. If we were tasked, and I hope we can take this away with us, what 3 things did I learn today that I didn't know before? For me, there would probably be 10. So that speaks volumes. With my eye on the clock, we are running 17 minutes behind schedule. I now want to return the mic back to Debbie to guide us through the next phase. Thank you wholeheartedly to all our presenters and everyone who's participated. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Thank you for the keynote, the panelists. This is just amazing, and I'm very, very energized. We are so honored also to have, in addition to the Honorable Minister Peace Mutuzo, we have Dr. Angela Nakafero, the Commissioner, Gender and Women Affairs in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Republic of Uganda. In attendance, we also have the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Mr. Agri David Chibenge, who have also honored us with their presence. And since we really have crossed the time by about 3 minutes now, I'd like to hand over to invite Rhoda, Professor Rhoda Wanyenze, just to summarize what our emerging call to action looks like. Prof. Rhoda.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
And then I will request you to hand over to invite Dr. Izobia to invite the Honorable Minister to give her closing remarks.
Thank you, Debbie. I will make a very, very brief summary and cut back on some of the issues given the time constraints. Otherwise, it's been so exciting and inspiring listening to all the great ladies on this panel. And I can say that the call to action has already been done, actually, based on what each of us has been hearing here. But I'll just appreciate, especially Dr. Maggie Kigozi. I think your journey from a medical doctor to an entrepreneur and to moving towards forming a network to support women entrepreneurs in Uganda is such an excellent example of what we can all do in our spaces when we observe challenges. Yes, we can talk about them, but we can do something, and you chose to do that. So for me, that's my first call to action for everyone, that if we can pick that example and in whichever space we are, we can make a difference. I think it's truly, truly powerful. And for that, I will highlight a few issues here. The data gaps that Gisela
Oops. Oh, we had lost you for a second.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The internet and issues behind here. But I just wanted to emphasize the issue of data and the call for us, all of us as researchers, to make sure that we are more inclusive. We always have opportunities where we can do more with our research and the data collection. There's so much we can do, but also to research funders, because the research funders have a lot of power in terms of what we choose to fund, but also what we ask those that we fund to do. So I think there is more we can do to be more inclusive in terms of data collection for women. But I also see that we really do have a duty to design, test, and document interventions that work out there so that we can give them a voice and be able to contribute to the advocacy to scale this up. Civil society and other players are always really good with the advocacy, but we need to work together, those of us in academia and civil society, to give the data a voice once we have it. In terms of education, I thought I should emphasize a number of things here. The business and management skilling, I think that came out strongly in some of the examples. Apprenticeship, mentorship, and support systems for women, including girls. While they're still in school, we can do this. And we see the example where Zule, that the students can actually step in and bridge the gaps. And perhaps we need to activate more students, communities, to be able to step up and be part of the solution. So really good examples there. And one of the things that I would like to also emphasize is that we do have an opportunity to integrate issues of gender, whether it's in the training, in debates, and in terms of showing an example, in terms of an inclusive environment within academia. That is something we can all do. So I would like to say that's another call to action for us. But we also had quite a number of challenges, socioeconomic, gender-related issues, and also had others that are legal examples where women cannot legally perhaps easily access certain resources as men. So we need to do something about that as well. And certainly I do appreciate the example from Centenary Bank, where you've stepped up, Beatrice, to be able to bridge some of these gaps, but also the Own It, a very powerful example there, in terms of helping women to own a home, which is so powerful in terms of that transgenerational wealth creation. And especially because I'm from the health background, I was excited to hear health. Health is one of the biggest challenges and one of the areas that actually pushes people into poverty, where we don't have health insurance. People sell everything they own and they close their businesses just to treat their family members. So we need to do something about that. So I like the package of health, housing, education, and work there, and certainly access to resources like what Centenary Bank is doing. And then finally, the inclusion of government, the leadership of government and legislators in making sure that we have a conducive environment, the laws that are inclusive so that women can access resources, women can freely inherit and also grow their businesses, and that we can also use legislations to actually force us to be more inclusive. So I'm glad that we have a good representation of our gender ministry and that perhaps we can have this taken up. And so very finally, excellent examples here. And as one of the panelists said, we have talked and talked and continue to talk, but clearly all of you have acted, and you must continue to act. But we must act with urgency because we've talked for too long. And as Dr. Maggie Kigozi said, gender equity is not charity. It is an imperative for socio-economic development. Thank you, and back to you, Debbie and Eusebia. I think it's Eusebia who is going to invite the minister to speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Rhoda. Eusebia. Dr. E, where is she? Oh, you're on mute.
She's right there. She's muted.
Thank you very much, Rhoda, for that very concise summary of what it is that we have been discussing. I have the honor to invite our Honorable Minister, Dr. Peace Mutuzo, who is representing the Honorable Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Dr. Mutuzo is an alumnus of Makerere University. She has a doctorate in gender studies, but she's also a member of parliament for Bunyangabo district, representing Bunyangabo district in the western part of Uganda. She has been very, very instrumental in advancing the advancement of women. And we
You're muted.
You're muted. Dr. E, please unmute.
We are so privileged that you are able to join us to give these closing remarks. We are privileged that Dr. Peace Mutuzo is our alumnus of Makerere University. She has a doctorate in gender studies from Makerere University, but she's also a member of parliament representing the women of Winyangabo district. And she has been very instrumental in the advancement of women in the public sector. And we are so privileged that you could come together with your team, the permanent secretary, Mr. Agri David Chibenge, you are very welcome. And the commissioner, Dr. Angela Nakaferu, who is also an alumnus of Makerere University. Thank you very much for joining us, and you're welcome to give your closing remarks, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
Thank you so
please.
much, Dr. E. I'm privileged to be with you, and with my team, we're joining you from New York, where we are attending a world conference on the status of women. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of this event, the Gender Mainstreaming Directorate, Makerere University, the 4W Women and Wellbeing Initiatives at the University of Wisconsin, Madison, USA, Association of United States of America, the Dawn Country Chapter, USA, and the Higher Education Resource Service, East Africa. There's no better time for us to come together and reflect on the strengthening of our collaboration than now. I want to thank my sister and the great sisters, activists that I have listened to today, and most importantly, Professor Maggie Chigozie. Thank you for sharing your great insights. I can read and hear them still ringing in my ears, even now as I speak. I also want to thank the panelists and all of you for making time for this event. And please allow me to make the following remarks from this conversation. The collaboration between higher education, private sector, and civil society is a pivotal role in addressing poverty and financing for economic empowerment of women and girls. Globally, women constitute more than half of the population, and therefore their contribution and participation in sustainable development is very crucial. It was mentioned by one of the panelists' presentations that women are overrepresented in the informal economy, often working in the most insecure, precarious jobs with little or no protection. The informal economy is characterized by low remuneration, poor working conditions, and limited access to social protection and rights at work. We have done a great job through various government initiatives, but these efforts, especially by the academia and civil society, need more pronounced. Panelists have highlighted the problem of financial exclusion and the lack of access to financial services, and how these also intensively impoverish women. Women more than men lack bank accounts and mobile money accounts. Indeed, women-owned and women-led enterprises fit in hard to access financing, including exclusion from financial institutions or insufficient access to financial services. At the height of COVID-19 pandemic, women-owned micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises had 70% of their trade financial applications totally or partially rejected by banks or loan institutions, and a number of them closed down. There is need for collective action between the sectors, higher education, private sector, and civil society to empowering women and girls. Higher education research is encouraged to shelve and be more relevant to addressing societal needs through influencing policy. Universities must move now more than ever before to transit their numerical research done into practical solutions for the communities. Higher education can also provide tailor-made training and opportunities to empower women and girls. The Wezule challenge mentioned by one of our panelists, the students, and I'm really so happy that young people are getting to appreciate and realize who they are and their potential. You realize that Professor Maggie stated that she started her journey late. So the adventure to support young people to realize their potential is one that I really appreciate, and it is a take-home lesson for me. The changing role of higher education has powerful implications for societal transformation. The academia needs to be attend to needs of men and women in society. Economic empowerment for women is at the center stage of societal transformation. It is important for higher education actors to move beyond the knowledge generation to knowledge application, and this calls for collaboration with society, with the civil society and the private sector. I picked this lesson from Professor Kwesiga of Kabari University, where she said they had taken research to the local community. And I think in future, our PhD defenses should be done in the local setting where people can understand and appreciate the relevance of the research we have always been doing. I think I like that. It is also adopted in Tanzania, where you sit in a market and everybody asks you the questions so that your application of research is really relevant into the human environment and society, to the local community. That's why it is critically important. Higher education is mandated to generate disaggregated data about the status of women and girls. This data is needed in order to effectively address women's poverty and the multidimensional deprivation of women's face. The academia is encouraged to promote transparency and access to timely and accessible data and information so that people, including women living in poverty, can be action grounded in knowledge of their rights. The civil society has the capacity to massively mobilize the communities to appreciate the plight of women and commit to empower them. The economic institutions are in better position to drive pro-poor, inclusive, and gender-responsive economic programs. Women target drive like a Superwoman can be replicated and used as models for economic empowerment of women. I wish we had more engagements with the media where such programs and initiatives are spoken about more regularly. On many occasions, I have realized that many women do not have information, and which if they had, then they would have been able to apply that information into their real lives. Professor Maggie talked about the 1.5 points which has supported women and girls into universities, and we are getting to realize the achievement about since 2000. This is in about 20 something years. I wish that was also translated into tertiary institutions and vocational studies so that we have more numbers in STEM, even at a lower level where we need practically their works. The government has put in place an enabling environment with a number of gender-responsive economic policies to support more inclusive and equitable growth, create jobs for women and men, and contribute to achieving gender equality. Now, this is a call for action. As we close this event and work towards the next 69th CSW, I want to say that realizing gender equality and the rights and empowerment of women and girls is essential for the full, effective, and accelerated implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action and the 2030 Agenda. Addressing women and girls' poverty requires strong partnership with government, higher education, civil society, private sector, literally leaving no one behind in the drive towards achieving gender equality. A comprehensive gender response policy and services implemented by strengthening institutions and sustained financing from public, private, domestic, and international resources will go a long way in addressing poverty. To achieve this, the following actions are required. 1, integrating a gender perspective in higher education research for development. 2, strengthening civil society for effective and meaningful mobilization of women. 3, promoting private sector-led development. And 4, involving men in gender mainstreaming activities to end poverty by especially changing mindset towards women's economic empowerment. We need to assure women that we are not competing, but we are giving a supportive role in dividing and perhaps sharing our potential, dividing labor and sharing our potential. We don't need them to die in a struggle to bring everything, and yet women have the potential to supplement their efforts. The young lady asked, and I really have taken good lessons from this young girl, and I congratulate her upon the steps they have taken. What more can students do? What more can young girls in their study life or young age do? I think it is timely now for the girls to be engaged, to take up the artificial intelligence and digitalization, knowing that women's domestic or private role, we can now take advantage of it, where we can concentrate and write and read, but also engage in the artificial intelligence, where there is now a space for the new revolution that will not want to be left behind in all sectors, in the economic sector, in science and technology, agriculture. And secondly, choose properly as you get into an adulthood stage of marriage. I was teaching Makerere University last week as a visiting lecturer in a gender class of 600 students, where the biggest challenge and question was, we are 90% of this class as females. Who will marry us? That was the question. Marriage is good, transitional stage, but it's important to decide to take careful eye on who you marry, because who you marry may raise or kill your potential. So be very careful and don't rush, as I saw my class pushing me to answer as if to bring out many men to say, marry so-and-so. So that is important. 3, register your businesses. Be them small, learn to be formal. Register your businesses and continue learning every day that passes on. Don't take anything for free. Understand and appreciate what is important. Whatever is given to you is never for free. So don't take anything for free. Take advantage of certain programs, but they are not for free. Take advantage of them and know that you're going to pay a price. A price is knowledge, a price is power. I want to thank you so much for this intervention and for hosting us. And I want to you to see my colleagues here in New York. We are all here as a good big team. Here we are. Please raise your hands. Hello. Thank you so much for being with us, and God bless you for God and my country. I think I would have this meeting closed, and thank you so much for inviting us and for being very vigilant in what you're doing. I could see everybody's passion in this reflected. God bless you. For today, we are coming to close.
God bless you, Honorable. Thank you very much, everyone. So thank you very much, Honorable, and the team in New York. And well done, team. We want to thank our participants, those who have especially been able to stay on until the end. Thank you very, very much indeed. And we look forward to further engagements and to seeing you in this space next year at CSW 69. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Put your hands together for Debbie for her leadership.
Bye, Debbie. Bye, all of you.